It's good to be here tonight. It's kind of weird to be standing up here and looking back at all these empty seats. Nobody here but Preacher Daniel and niece brought her with me tonight. He came and set this up for us. We don't have the technology at our home to do this, and he said he'd do it for us, that I'd come and do it. And you know, sometimes it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. You know, I'd like to have said no, because, you know, I don't feel comfortable at all being in front of a camera. I don't know that I'm camera shy, but I'm just backward. So I guess a lot of people can understand that, but I feel like I have a responsibility to do what I can to help the church through this time. We've never seen a time. I know we keep saying we've never seen a time like this, and we haven't. It's totally different than anything that we've ever seen. I mean, I've never known the church doors to be shut for this long of a period and not be able to join together with our brothers and sisters in Christ. But there's been times in history that's a whole lot more dark than what it is now. I hear a whole lot of gloom and doom, a whole lot of, it's never been this bad. Well, it has been this bad. It's been worse. It's different this time because of the attention and the way that it's being handled. It's a whole lot different than what it usually is, or what we've seen down through history. But we'll get through it. Yeah. You know, we just need to be patient, trust in the Lord, and realize that He can take care of everything. Realize He's in control of everything, and realize in just a short while we'll be back to normal. I've been hearing said that we'd never be the same. It'd never be the same, but we will. We'll be the same, and it'll be before you know it. And time passes fast anyway, doesn't it? Right. I mean, a year ago, it's just went like that. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I'd like to say hello. We've been doing well. Just staying at home, not going nowhere, not getting out, doing what they've said to do. And we believe calling the church off is the smart and responsible thing to do at this time. Just going by what the government officials tells us. And I feel like we need to go by what they say. I think we need to be responsible. I believe we need to react in a way that we think God would lead us. I know I see a lot of churches that are being, I guess you call it, defiant, saying, well, the government's not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do, I know we do have the First Amendment right to join together, and the government has no right to tell us that we can't. But when it's the safety of people's lives, and I feel like there's very little risk of us if we would join together here as a church tonight. Very small risk, but there is somewhat risk. And I don't know that risk will be gone even when we start having church again. I feel like that risk is still going to be around. But we need to be responsible. We need to just be reasonable. And I think as long as the government officials is responsible and reasonable with the way they treat us, then I think that we can be abide by what they say and follow their recommendations. And we have seen some across the country, some states that have kind of overstepped their bounds with the churches. And you know, if we start seeing that we're being treated unfair or treated in a way that other places are not being treated, like, I mean, if you open up the restaurants and the bars and stuff and start letting people in and say, no, the churches still can't open up, I think that would be unreasonable. And I think that we would have to show that we do have a First Amendment right to join together. But saying that, I feel like that in a very short time, I think we'll be back. I think that things will open up, and I really think we're going to have to. because of the country. I don't think the economy will stand much more of this before we start off the edge. I mean, it's pretty bad now. I mean, I noticed yesterday on the news yesterday afternoon that oil had actually went to a negative number. In other words, I'm saying the buyers, the future buyers of oil had bought oil for this month and had no one to sell it to, and they were actually paying people to take the oil because they was going to have to, they have to do something with the oil after they bought it. And they were paying, I think, $30, $40 a barrel for somebody to take oil. I never thought I'd ever see that before. So that's pretty bad in our economy when you see that. So we would like to see it get opened back up, but we need to be patient. And I know we see a lot of people protesting today, and I can understand it in a way. I mean, I've been without a paycheck before. We went several months without a paycheck before, and it's scary. And I can kind of understand it, but when I see them protesting, gathering in these big groups and stuff, I don't think it's right to be doing that. I think they need to be responsible about what they're doing and not put anybody at risk. If they want to join together and, keep their distance and act responsible, and, we have the right to do that. And I can understand why people does it. And, if we can't get it open before long, we'll see a lot more of it, but we hope not. We hope everything gets opened up, but it's going to be something that's, it's not going to be gone right away, and there's no perfect time, I don't think, to open up the economy. They give guidelines and everything to go by, and, you have to kind of go by them, but, you have to use common sense too, and hopefully it can be done responsibly, and it can be done. What I'm trying to say is, even when it opens up, no matter if we wait 2 months, there's still going to be areas, I think, that will be flaring up with this coronavirus until there's a vaccine for it. Most of the people that knows what they're talking about, and I just have to listen to them and kind of go with what they say, and sometimes they know and sometimes they don't. But they say this is going to be around until we get a vaccine for it. Well, I guess it will. I don't know. They know what they're talking about. And they said the only other way to be immune to it is to get it and get over it. So, for older people, say above 65, it would be really dangerous. We need to do everything we can to protect them. But as far as anyone like 65 and below, I heard a doctor from Sanford University talking about it, saying that if the numbers that they were given were true, I mean, we see the numbers that we have, the numbers of deaths, the number of people that they think has gotten the virus here in the United States, and they all feel like there's thousands more people that has actually gotten the virus than what's in the number. And taking that into consideration and the numbers of deaths, with the numbers that they have actually right now, they're saying I think it's 11 people to 100,000 people that are dying, which is 1.1%. And they say it's a lot less than that. And then when you get 65 and younger, and you're healthy, no other conditions, you're more likely to get killed in a car accident driving to work over your lifespan than you are of getting coronavirus and dying of it. So that kind of gives us something to think about there, to let us know that as bad as this is, and I wouldn't argue a minute that this is not a terrible thing, but as bad as this is, it's still, not the gloom and doom that a lot of people are, trying to say it is. And we just need to put things in perspective. And, I think if we could get out a lot more of the numbers, the real numbers. I know we hear everything, and some of them are real, and some of them are just thrown out there, I think. I don't know where they say the models that they come up with, like they talked about, if they didn't do anything, it would be 2.2 million could die from this just in the United States. I don't know if I don't think if it at its worst could have been that bad, but I don't know. It's like I say, I'm going by what I see and what I hear, and trying to use some common sense with it too. So, and when it comes to common sense, I'm kind of short on that anyway. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling on here, and I'm saying a whole lot here that I really wasn't planning on saying it. I do appreciate Preacher Daniel coming and setting this up, and like I say, sometimes it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. But anyway, of course, niece is with me tonight too, and they're the only two here, and I do appreciate them. I told niece, I said, if I'm gonna have to teach, you're gonna have to play the piano and sing. She said, I can't play the piano. I said, well, I can't teach. So that works out pretty good. But anyway, I might just have to use this opportunity to really dress her down. You reckon? Let her really have it tonight. But then I got to think that won't work. I mean, got to go home. And you know what a bully she is. I mean, you can just imagine what take place when I got home. But I've had this thought for a pretty good while. Actually, before this coronavirus ever got started, kind of had this thought, and it didn't take too much thought to choose the scriptures I wanted to use, but the thought I had was choosing our enemies and our allies. It's so easy for us to get blinded in life to who's our enemy and who's our allies. And I think I'm going to read in 1 Samuel. We'll start here in 18th chapter, 5th verse. I better get over here in the right spot. I'm in the 25th chapter. I got to looking around there, where in the world? So, okay, there in the 18th chapter and 5th verse. I think I'll read down through 15 here. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. Keep that in mind right there. He behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King Saul with tabrets, with joy, and with the instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can we have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed David from that day forward. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at the other times. And there was a javelin in Saul's hand, and Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. We're all very familiar with the story of Saul and David, and we see go back and see where David slew Goliath. What a great warrior David was. And here he was, Saul's, probably, I would say he was Saul's right-hand man. But through jealousy and hate, in Saul's eyes, David became his enemy. And then beyond that, through fear, because he seen that David behaved himself wisely. And this went on, Saul trying to kill David for, I don't know, I think it's 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure exactly what the time span was there, but you know, it's sad that Saul would have such a great ally as David, such a great warrior. If I was going into battle, I would want him as an ally, wouldn't you? I certainly wouldn't want him as an enemy, not being the warrior that David was. If I'd seen David go out at this giant and slay this giant, I certainly wouldn't want him as an enemy, would you? And knowing that he was such a great warrior, and knowing that he would fight to the death for Saul, how could Saul ever have a better ally than David? But yet he made him his greatest enemy. And I'd like to go over here in the 24th chapter and read a few verses, just to show you how wisely David behaved himself. In the 24th chapter, and let's start there at the 4th verse. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy unto thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Thou David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privately. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My lord the king, in whom Saul looked behind him. David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt. Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord had delivered thee today unto mine hand in the cave, and some bade me kill thee, but mine eye spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of the robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe, and kill thee not. Neither evil nor transgressions in my hand, and I have not sinned against thee, yet thou huntest my soul to take it. The Lord judged between me and thee, and the Lord avenged me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. And saith the Proverbs of the ancients, Wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the King of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end to the speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, It is thine voice, my son David. And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art mine righteous, thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast showed this day how that thou hast dealt with me, forasmuch as when the Lord hath delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away, wherefore the Lord reward thee good for what that thou hast done unto me this day. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. So we see that David behaving wisely as bringing him rewards. We see Saul's behavior. Of course, this is going to go on. You know, you've read the book, and it goes on, and David has another opportunity, even after Saul chasing him all through the wilderness and in the caves, David hiding in the caves, and he has another chance to kill Saul. But he wouldn't do it then either, because he took Saul as an ally. Where Saul believed, in Saul's eyes, he believed David to be his enemy. And I think if we could better see today our allies and our enemies, and not let the hate of the world blind us, the jealousy of the world blind us, I think we could better see our allies and our enemies. We see so much hate in the world today. I had some more I was going to read there, but I'm having a hard time seeing here in this light. But anyway, I was thinking, and today, a lot of times with the hate we see, and it's in our politics, and I won't say it's both sides. It's not one side. It's not a one-sided thing. It's both sides. But I see more hate in the news media than I do in the politics today. And we want to say, well, I've never seen it like this. I've never seen the hate as bad as it is today. I've heard a lot of people say that, and I've thought it at times myself. But then I thought, let's look back in history and think for a while at some of the times that this nation has been full of hate. And I thought back to the Civil War. I don't think we could ever find a time in this nation that it was as full of hate as it was during the Civil War. And it was brought up out of jealousy and hatred. People from the northern states seen the lavish lifestyle that the plantation owners had in the South and become jealous of it. And this hate, I think it took years for it to build up to the point that it was during the war. For these states, for the South and the North to go to war with each other, that's Americans killing Americans. And there was over 600,000 people died in the Civil War. 200,000, I think the history says, in actual battle, and 400,000 through illnesses brought on by the conditions of the war, being out there in the terrible conditions that they had to be in. But just think what kind of hate it would take to kill a fellow American. You know, it's hard for me to imagine what it takes to do that. But that hate had built up so, just boiled and boiled and boiled until it got started. And thousands of Americans killed thousands other Americans. The Confederate soldiers hated the Union soldiers. The Union soldiers hated the Confederate soldiers. It wasn't just a battle of people fighting for a country or fighting for freedom. It was a battle of hate. And even after it was over, the hatred, it still goes on somewhat today. We see these statues of Civil War generals being ripped down and torn apart, and other things torn up through the hate that is still there. And it's sad, because we're all Americans. They were all Americans then. But that terrible spirit of hate brought them against each other in a way, and they couldn't satisfy this hate. The battles they fought, killing each other, it just got worse and worse, until it was over. They finally seen so much death and carnage during this terrible war that they seen this hate, this wasn't going to do. And finally, Robert E. Lee surrendered the South to Ulysses Grant. It's not that far up, other side of Lynchburg, Virginia, at Appomattox Courthouse, and ended the war that was brought on by this terrible hate. Now we're seeing a little bit today, but really, mostly as far as our politicians, it's only just a few. It's not like all of them, and I was kind of happy to see them all come together on this recovery package the government has made it. I don't understand. I'll never understand how that much money can just be, put out there, and someday if it can ever be paid back or what, I don't know. I know they sent money to people that don't need money, and it's just throwing money on top of it. But anyway, what really got me started on this thought was a few months ago. I guess it's been a few months ago, but anyway, the United States took out an Iranian general, Soleimani, a terrible person, killed, if not killed, but responsible for the deaths of thousands of Americans. A terrible enemy. And when the United States, and he had plans to kill more. I mean, he wasn't done. He was going to kill more. And we see the news media just about make a hero out of him. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you saying? What are you doing? This man is our enemy. He's not our ally. He's our enemy. He needed to be taken out years ago if he could have been. But still, and I know it's because of their hate. I mean, what else? What else could we explain it with? It's because of their hate. That they've taken a terrible enemy and made an ally out of him, and they're making enemies out of those that done it. And then I come to think about this virus that's going around now, how terrible it is. And we have those in the news media today making China more of an ally than an enemy. But just think about over the years what China has done to this country. Of course, I know most of it's our fault. I mean, we've done it to ourselves. Everybody said we needed global trade, open up a trade and have free trade. Well, what did it do? It took all of our factories, all of our jobs, or not all of them, but I mean a huge number of them, to China. I mean, you can look in Watauga County at the factories that's closed down. Look in the neighboring county, Johnson County, and Mountain City. all the factories that's closed down, all of that has went to China. Thousands of jobs. Of course, we've done that to ourselves. I can stand up here and fuss China over it, but I probably need to be fussing ourselves over it. And really, who we need to be looking at there, I believe, is these fat cats on Wall Street. They lobbied the politicians for all these trade deals with China and everything so they can fill their pockets full of money with no thoughts about what it's going to do to our country. And I'll have to say that it has really done a lot of harm to our country. They take our jobs over there and then they send back billions of dollars worth of, I call it junk. Most of what I buy it's been from China. And where I got really leery of China it's been several years ago, and I've said it before here. Go to the building supply to try to buy a tool, power tool, and you can't find one that's not made in China. Maybe one now and then that's made in Mexico. I'd like to find one that's made in the United States. I'd buy it. I don't care about the price. I'd buy it. But we've done that. I know I want to say blame it on China, but it's our own fault. That's our own fault. But then I look at the other things that China's done to this country. Look at the number of people that has died of overdoses of prescription drugs, the opioids. Well, that's from China. But then we're bringing them in, and the doctors we're giving, of course they've cut back on them now, they're not doing that, but they were over-prescribing them and getting people hooked on them, and they were overdosing on them, and of course it's still going on. And this fentanyl, some of the things I've heard about it's just unbelievable, and that's coming from China. And then these viruses. Of course, these things I've been talking about right here, that's a whole lot of our fault. We'll have to point a finger at ourselves on a lot of that. But then, these viruses, by what I've heard and seeing on the news, I think everybody is certain that this started in China. This is where it came from. Of course, with all the lies and the covering up that they're doing, if they would have been honest and open about it to start with, it makes you wonder how many lives would have been saved. And all of this economical disaster that we've got right now, where would we be at with it? So I look at that. Now that's not our fault. That is their fault. And an ally will not send death to our doorstep and never give us any warning when they know. Now, if they didn't know, but I'm as certain as I'm standing here that they knew, and they knew what they were doing. I'm not saying that they tried to send it out into the world, that it was some kind of conspiracy to do that. I really believe, and there's going to have to be more, we'll never know the full truth of it, but I really believe that it did come out of that laboratory in Wuhan through their scientists testing and doing experiments with those bats. They're pretty sure, I know, that it come from a bat. They want to say it come from the wet markets. But they've used every excuse. They said the military from the United States brought it over there. And then I think they tried to pack it off on Italy and several different things. And they're just not at all being honest with us. And I just can't see us calling them an ally when they're that dishonest with us. And all the other things that they do, they don't have any beliefs that are anywhere near what we have. They're a communist nation. And I heard there on the news too that they were making all the churches that were there take down the crosses. I don't know if you might have heard that too, but they hate Christians. They don't want anything to do with Christians. And I would hate to be a missionary over there, but we have sent missionaries over, not here from Antioch that I can remember, but I do know of churches that have sent missionaries over there. We're trying to be an ally to them. We're trying to help them. Sending all those jobs over there, help them. Buying all that stuff that they produce and bringing it over here is helping them. All we do is helping them. We've not done anything that I've seen to make them believe that we're their enemy. They look at us as an enemy, though, I think, especially the Communist Party over there. The Chinese people might not, because the protests and stuff that they've had over the years to try to become a democracy, or more like the United States. But the Communist Party in China, they don't care a bit to wipe out 1,000 of them, keep them from protesting. So with a complete different belief system and the way they're dishonest with us, how can we call them an ally? All of these things point to them being our enemy. And especially, like David done everything that he could to help Saul and be an ally to him. Well, that's what the United States has done for China. We've done everything we could do to help them, be an ally to them. But they've done everything that they could do, or it's the way I'm reading it, and I guess you could argue with me, and I know a lot of people would. They probably feel different about it. But I just can't see an ally sending death to our doorstep the way that they done. And something that really bothered me, they closed that Wuhan Providence down to anybody leaving there could not go anywhere else in China. They couldn't fly nowhere else. They couldn't leave there and go anywhere else in China. But they sent thousands of them from there all over the world. Knowing that they had that, they were sending it out into the world. How can we call them an ally that would do that? It's cost tens of thousands of deaths, trillions of dollars in economical cost. I just cannot see them as an ally. And I hope now that this has taken place, I hope we rethink the way we deal with China. I hope we see them more as they really are, and not just as a way for trade, and not just as a way for the Wall Street people to fill their pockets full of money through the trade deals with China. And I know there's some of them lobbying now to take the tariffs off of the products coming in from China. With all this going on, they're still doing that. And I can't see it. But anyway, that's the thought I had tonight, and I hope I've said something in some way that would help somebody tonight. And I'd just like to say I really miss everybody. Hope everybody's getting along good. And if there's any need, let us know. And hopefully we'll be able to get back together here before long. Time flies by anyway. Month will be gone before we know it. We'll be getting back together. Things will get back to normal. So everybody pray for one another. Thank you.